Welcome to today's discussion on harnessing the power of open transaction network for tourism, art, and culture. The creative industries are a significant contributor to global GDP, with tourism, art, and culture driving economic growth and social development. The creative industries are evolving. Technology enables new experiences, business models, and collaborations. For panel discussions on group networks and digital infrastructure, I welcome Mr. Kanishka Aigwal, Head of Service Lines India and South Asia, Amazon Web Services, to be the moderator of the session. Mr. Aigwal has led a team of experts in delivering digital innovations and deep tech services to various sectors such as public, education, healthcare, travel, and transportation. With a vast experience in multiple domains, Mr. Kanishka Aigwal is an expert passionate about reimagining process and enhancing user experience by leveraging technology in a user context. We also have a wonderful set of panelists. I would like to welcome Sujit Nair, CEO and co-founder of FIDE, Satish Shekhar, Director of Kalgi Foundation, Alok Gupta, Chief Solutions and Product Officer, Step Foundation, Professor S.R. Mahadeva Prasanna, Director of IIT Dharwad, Shan M.S., Co-founder and COO, Nammayatri. I request Kanishka Aigwal to take over the session.
Check, check. Okay, thanks. All right, afternoon, everyone. First of all, this is at 12:30. We were told, can we compress this? We said no, we won't compress it. It's supposed to be the job of the one who comes at 4 p.m. So they will compress their sessions. We will have for the full 30 minutes. But before that, I'll begin with an apology. We were just coming off the last panel, and what you heard of the last panel, I think it's a miss that we don't have enough diversity on this panel. It's a man-only panel. We will do better the next time, and hopefully we'll have more representation on this, something for us to take back. But at least for the next 30 minutes, I'll assure you, you'll have a lot of fun. We'll try and keep it as informal as possible. You've got some of the leading guys as far as DPI is concerned, and a lot of their services you've already leveraged. If you're a Bangalorean, then you have used Namayatri. You have seen what FIDE has been doing with a number of these open networks and what OneTAC is now promising to do. What I want to kick off is, with Sujit. Sujit's been with FIDE for the longest time. He's been a co-founder with FIDE. I've interacted with FIDE for quite some time on this. And the way I understand FIDE and the entire beacon protocol and the way it has really been put out is, what if you could actually make a decentralized way to transact? Which is, you have a supply and a demand problem, but generally you have somebody in the middle who actually says, look, you go here, this person has so-and-so product and this person has so-and-so need. What if you took out that middleman in between and said, I can have a peer-to-peer connection that will allow you to transact without those middleman coming in and playing, let's say, that interchange or interface, really. And I think in a nutshell, that's what FIDE really attempts to do. We've seen some great examples of FIDE as it has been moving through over the last couple of years. And Sujit, you've been right at the center of it, driving that. It's not just for India, but he was just speaking to me prior to this. He was telling me that there's a lot of work that's now happening in the US, in the Europe and other areas as well. So help us, Sujit, what is FIDE, what is Beacon, and how is it powering the next gen of decentralized networks?
Thanks, Kanish. Now, firstly, when you're talking about decentralized ecosystems, it's unfair to say that I'm at the center of it. The whole point of decentralization is to have everybody be at the center and technically, therefore, nobody at the center. Now, but thank you for that, the background. I think the work we are doing with Beacon Protocol, which is, as a quick intro, is an effort that FIDE has contributed to. We are the genesis author of an open set of bunch of standards or protocol specifications. It's been fascinating to see how an idea, which first of all is not a radical thought. I mean, we have open networks all around us. Internet is the biggest example of an open network. Your mobile phones, your telecom networks are open networks. They are decentralized. And why are they decentralized? The essential idea, as Kanishk was mentioning, you don't have to be on internet. You don't have to be or on emails. That's also another example of an open network. That's an easy example to give. When you use any of your email platforms like Hotmail, Gmail, or anything, you don't expect the receiver on the other end to use the same email platform. You don't insist that they should be on Hotmail or a Gmail. They could use any other email platform. And this idea that a person can be on any platform and interact with a person who's on any other platform, and therefore there's no central middleman, as Kanish put it, is the essential idea of internet as well. I can use any browser to access any website. I can use any connection. Let's say I can use Airtel to talk to a friend who's using AT&T connection somewhere in US. That idea was something that we sort of abdicated in the world of digital commerce, digital economy, where we moved from networks to platforms. We have these marketplaces, ride-hailing companies, your food delivery companies. We have come with this notion that if any consumer provider were to interact with each other, you need to have somebody in the center as an aggregator. But if you just fall back on the design of a good old internet and telecom, you realize that it is possible for consumer and provider to be on two different sort of digital interfaces. It could even be a browser on an Android-based phone, and they can still discover and transact each other. That thinking back in 2020, in the middle of pandemic, got manifested into what we all now know as an ONDC, or Open Network for Digital Commerce, that has probably clocked about 15 million transactions, crossed about 100 million transactions in its lifetime of 2 years. We have Sean from Namayatri here, which has been a fascinating story of how a backend protocol thinking does that. Now, is it just about commerce? Is it just about mobility? We are seeing this also in skilling. We have Alok here from Step Foundation. We are leading some of the work in education and skilling with this form of thinking. And therefore, we think that open network is a very natural way of thinking that we should be bringing it to the center of our conversation. We're doing some work in energy, and particularly about tourism, which is such a complicated, sort of a sector. I mean, tourism is a sector which also has hospitality, which also has transportation, which also has attraction, it also has events like this. Right in the backdrop, we have a fascinating Bangalore Palace. How do you bring them all together? When there's fundamentally fragmented and we are working on a very, very low trust, high cost equilibrium as an economy around tourism, how do we bring them together? Are we expecting one platform that will solve for every city, every tourism corner in the country to bring them all together? Or how do we make everybody come together, do their one part, and plug into this network, and collectively we can create this larger internet-like tourism economy, which will give agency, whether it's a tourist guide, whether it's a heritage site, it's an event organizer. Everybody has a way and autonomy to participate and make themselves discoverable, accessible to any tourist out there, whether they're domestic or international. I think that spirit behind the initiative, OneTAC, or Open Network for Tourism, is something that I'm particularly very excited about, having seen some of the work in ONDC and Namayatri. Kanisha.
Super, thanks, Sujit. In fact, taking a cue on that, right? I think somebody actually put it very beautifully. The government's job is essentially to build highways. So if you think of in a very physical standard, it's let's build a highway, and basis that highway, I've given you electricity, I've given you sanitation, I've given you plumbing and all of the stuff. But beyond that, they really get out of the way and then say, well, somebody come and build a fuel pump there. Somebody come and build the next mall, the next station to run a mall or a residential layout or whatever it may be. And I think that's what really DPI is, and what you're trying to do is that let me provide you that infrastructure. Let me provide you those digital highways or digital lines that will allow other people to start plugging in and innovating around it, which you have done with Beacon, which is provide that protocol. Today you've got multiple players or multiple industries making use of it. So if Sujit spoke to you about UEI and other places, including around the skilling piece. But there is one big poster child of Bangalore. How many of you use Namayatri here? Oh, that's a big crowd. Sean, you've got a fan following already. Namayatri, I think, is one of those fantastic apps that have got of a hockey stick sort of adoption, if I may call it. It went like this, right, in a span of 9 or 10 months. So, Sean, tell us more about your journey, how Namayatri was conceptualized, and what is the what is the adoption or what is the success you're seeing with Namayatri?
So thanks to all the fans and soon to be the fans. Please send more feedback and definitely improve as well. I think big thanks to Beacon Foundation. Our journey on mobility started with the concept of what a open network could do. We always got excited about India's DPA story. I think the great example is UPI. We were fortunate to be part of that and have seen how it has uplifted people. It has enabled possibilities which was not possible, and not just that, it also enabled beautiful experiences which otherwise was not possible in the previous UPI, pre-UPI era, etc. I think to come in to the overall scheme of things, so we call it as scaling empathy, and scaling empathy can happen only through technology. So in that sense, an open network became a beautiful enabler to bring people, to give the power back to the people and make mobility a completely a community driven initiative. When it is community driven, right, lot more possibilities can happen. One, the biggest advantage for a driver is he is going to rightfully get the earnings that he deserves to get. So we launched the zero commission model. Today we are fortunate and happy to say that a lot of industry veterans who have been in the industry for decades is moving to this model. A driver who spends hours and hours of his work, he should get the full benefit, not just the earnings, a little bit of flexibility, freedom, to do a little bit of autonomy, the way all of us like to have the freedom and autonomy. That's what Namayatri brought in, and it was loved by the drivers. Drivers liked it to such an extent that they started promoting it to the customers as well. And customers loved it as the Bangaluru's very own app, and the word of mouth started kicking in as well. And because everything is open, when we say everything is open, the software is open, the data is open, you can check, let's say in this ward, how many drivers are online, how many trips are happening, what is the cancellation, etc. All this data is out in the public. So to an extent that this is being used by some of the government departments to do the planning, urban planning, etc. And part of an open network and the protocol, open protocol as well. This enables much more innovation and collaboration as well. Whatever we have done in mobility, it is not because of a company. It is definitely because of the massive community support, be it the drivers or the customers. We usually say that, okay, to make an innovation like this to happen, India is the best place, and probably Bangalore is the best place, because it's a place where a community is very, very open to try out something new. Imagine we coming in as a fifth or a sixth player in mobility and then trying to launch something. Bangalore was very open to that. The drivers are very open to that. That's the community part. And government, the Sarkar part also, right? Many a times, government is very open to trying out new things. They promoted, they supported, and open network and ONDC, which is built over and Beacon, right? That became a great enabler as well, and not finally the corporate part as well. All the innovations and the best of the technology coming together. So an open network definitely plays a very important role in collaborating between Samaj, Sarkar and Bazaar. I would attribute that success of Namayatri, and it's a very, very early days and it has to go across the rest of the Karnataka. I'll end with one small example of how an open network has enabled a small town called Tumkur. It's 70 kilometers from here in Karnataka. There was no ride-hailing app in that town. People used to walk to the nearby auto station to book an auto. Within a span of last 6 to 9 months, that city with 300 odd drivers is doing 3,000 trips a day. It's a story that I think all of us should be proud of for enabling digital. Today, other examples of Kalburgi, Mangalore, so many other small towns and are waiting for a digitization, and open network model is what will enable these cities to be digitized. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Sean. In fact, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Dark Knight Rises. It's a Batman movie, and there's a villain or central character in that called the Bane. One of the famous dialogues he uses is, "We are giving back power to the people." Sean actually used that statement just now, which is we give back power to the people so that they can then transact, they can essentially have a democratized access to services, to opportunities, or whatever you may through this network. Just quick call out to the organizers. We have lost signal on the counter or the timer here. Sorry, somebody from the organizing team listening? Yeah, we've lost signal. So we don't know how long we are going. If we cross 30 minutes, it's too bad. You have to blame them. Okay, getting to Satish on this. I think Satish, you're trying to do something now with the entire OneTAC piece, right? Which is around the tourism, art, culture, essentially. And I think where India really stands is we've got probably one of the most richest tourism, art, and culture in the world, if not the one across the world, right? But I think where we have a challenge is there are some pockets which are obviously well known, but there are a large part of India that hitherto is unexplored or untouched, or people don't know. You know, I know about a Chennapatna doll, but I don't know if a North Indian knows about it, or if somebody who is in Imphal knows what's happening, knows what is happening in Imphal, but I don't know what is happening sitting in Bangalore. And that's one way for you to promote and know or empower small, medium, and rural artisans. I think OneTAC is trying to do a large part of that, including conserve and bring to fore what India has to offer in terms of its richness and its culture, art, and tourism. So why don't you tell us more about what is OneTAC trying to do, leveraging Beacon?
Sure. So OneTAC, let's understand this from two perspectives. One is the demand side and the supply side. So from the demand side, as a tourist, if you really want to plan your travel, you have the booking platforms for your travel accommodation. But if you really want to explore the art and the culture, the local culture part, it is a manual search. You don't have a seamless information or a verified information which is available anywhere. It is always a manual search or a reference, or you speak to some people, you check the blogs, or you get into some kind of a social media influencers site just to understand what is that you could do in that region. But on the other side, the supply side, not many people are onto the digital forte yet. Only few people like the chain hotels and the other people are on the booking platforms and other things. But a lot more people have to be got into the digital forte. So that's where we understood that tourism, art, and culture is a part of one sector. It should be considered as one sector rather than siloed as different segments. Unless and until we do that, we are not going to do any justice to this particular sector. So even if you take tourism, in that there are many facets. But let's take the monuments which we have. Look, we have about 3,500 plus nationally protected monuments, but our budget for that is just 1% of the total budget which has been allocated. What is the total number of people who are actually guarding this 3,500 national monuments? It's average about 2 to 3 people. So that is the kind of budget which has been given. So when that is the fate of the national monuments, assume the state protected monuments, assume about the unprotected monuments. So that is where the technology has to come into picture, where we try to do a 3D cloud point, create some kind of a digital assets, allow innovations to happen around it. And only when such things happen, when there's an economic activity there, is when the governments will start, implementing on the infrastructure at that area. Otherwise, even for the next 2 or 3 decades, we would continue to only be, going to the well-known promoted monuments, and we will obviously, not get into the unpopular monuments, but yet a very beautiful monuments that India actually possesses. Now, even you take the art sector, there are at least about 84 plus different kind of folk arts that is there in India, and close to about 50 are on the verge of becoming extinct. It is time that we, the technology has to come into picture where we try to, get the data recorded, try to do that mapping with the knowledge, map. That's where, you can do a lot of innovations with people plus AI. Many more innovations can happen even in the art sector. So even in this, not more than about 15-20% people are onto the digital fold. If the majority of the populations are still outside the digital fold, working in the offline model or that. Culture, we don't even have to talk because every 100 kilometers in India has a different culture, name it to be dialect, attire, cuisine, everything. So we can't have a kind of a system which is one size fits all. That's where we need a decentralized network. We need these open transaction networks. We need to create hubs which allows the local people to create their own strategy of tech assets. How do they promote that? So like how Kanishka said about Chanpatna toys, they should be able to promote their own offbeat destinations for tourism. How they connect to the artisans there? How do they connect to the culture there? What kind of cuisine? And all these informations has to be available digitally, which is verifiable in real time. Till then, we will not gain the trust of any kind of a tourist. So that is the objective of OneTAC, where we want to make sure that all the districts in India has been considered as a tourist destination. Give them the platform, give them all the technology tools which is required for them to promote domestically and globally. That's when we will be able to grow our tourism, from whatever present GDP to into 10x. So that is the whole objective of OneTAC.
Thanks, Satish. In fact, I actually concur with that 100-kilometer piece, right? Like, for example, if you see Bangalore Malleshwaram versus Bangalore Whitefield, there's a culture difference. It's 100 kilometers apart or whatever number of kilometers apart. In fact, you should
It may not be 100 kilometers, but 100 minutes to travel.
100 minutes to get. In fact, I would recommend that you encourage people on the outskirts, which is Whitefield, Sarjapur, etc., to experience Bangalore Central. Because that is actually a tourism destination for a number of them. Anyway, getting to Alok. Alok, I think Ekstep has been fairly a fulcrum for a number of DPI engagements, not just related to FIDE, but across multiple other aspects of India's DPI story. I mean, today you have got Sunbird, you've got the whole set of modules that are coming off Sunbird, which is helping power some of our education, delivery itself, as well as those entire registry credentialing systems that are coming off it. I think the overall DPI story that Ekstep has been driving has been a very central focus or a central, let's say, catalyst for India's DPI success itself. Because today, India is known as the place for all of the DPI engagements, and there are a number of organizations or countries looking to adopt this from us. Tell us more of what Ekstep is trying to do and how all of this is coming together. As you see now, a OneTAC coming, a UEI coming, a Namayatri coming. And it's not been an easy journey. It's been a journey of several years for you to get here. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so I'll take all of us away from technology a bit. What is really DPI? I mean, if you look at a fundamental, DPI is what empower individuals at scale for improving their social and economic well-being in a non-linear way. And I remember in my early days at Aadhaar, one of the bank managers made a comment that the current banking system is made for classes, not for masses. And that's what fundamentally India witnessed, right? How DPI broke those shackles. How India has seen multiple waves of, if I say digital transformation, be it financial inclusion, be it social benefits. When the world was struggling to distribute, money during COVID days, India was doing that seamlessly. Or be it, beyond the financial inclusion and social benefits. Now India is also witnessing how the masses are now, basically, investing in the economy, right? The depth of that is growing, tremendously. And if you look at from there, where the open networks really take it to the next level, is how do you take it, the access to essential services and the fundamental services to really meeting the aspirations of masses. And that's where India is witnessing, tremendous work being done, whether it is, commerce, ONDC, whether it is honest in a skilling perspective, or the work which is in progress in the agriculture sector, right? The point fundamentally is that if you really want the scale of population to be participatory in the social economic well-being, DPI makes that possible. It breaks all the boundaries. Now, in context to going beyond India, I think there is a strong recognition, and it's pretty much established across the globe, that if countries wants to enable their digital transformation in a non-linear way, DPI is the only way. In fact, there is a significant momentum globally to achieve that. Countries, irrespective of the globe continent, are aspiring towards that, irrespective of what their current development journey is. And the strongest indication to that is recently there were 193 countries who basically signed on Global Digital Compact, where the recognition of the role of DPI was central to that signation. There are multiple type of organizations that are coming together, be it the developmental organizations, be it your
philanthropic foundations, be it institutional funding, and be it market. And of course, you're here, Kanish, from AWS, and you know, right? I mean, how AWS is partnering with Step to really activate the capacity of market, right? Globally, activating the capacity at a local level, in the country context, but also doing it globally, because the amount of capacity which you require, there is no way one organization or one type of organization can achieve that. So there's a significant momentum towards that. And if you really go fundamental point in context to coming back to one tag, human being in many ways is a social animal, and one of the things which is well established that as a species, humans are far better than any other species because our ability to create and engage in large networks. When we talk about open networks, it's taking it to the next level. How are you breaking down the barriers of physicality to next level is what open network is doing, which all of us have witnessed in context to internet, in context to the information access. But now that is moving to the level of access to services, access to social and economic well-being of individuals at scale. And I think what once tag is adding value to this is fundamentally adding significant value to the social aspect of it, because all of us in our different contexts, doesn't matter where we live, we are connected to different practices, culture, and arts. I think OneTAC fundamentally deepening the engagement on that at a totally different level, and a significant contribution to the economic aspect is a very important aspect. The key point here is how do you make every person standing being digitally enabled, being able to participate in the economy digitally. And the beauty of, I think, one tag is that it can actually transcend boundaries. Because when you talk about culture and art, I think that is one of the areas where collaboration across countries is far more, possible. The boundary restrictions and concerns are far more lesser.
Sure. Thanks, Alok. In fact, I kind of agree on some of these areas where Step especially has been driving this, right? To be on the global forums and help further the cause of DPI requires a central or one nodal body, one nodal organization to do that. And that's where I think Step has been doing a fantastic job of helping elevate our pitch globally. I think and I've been associated with Step for quite some time on this. One of the things that we've also been seeing is there are a lot of member organizations or external organizations, countries that come down. When the G20 was happening, a large number of countries came down. There were a ton of show and tell that also happened at that point in time. And these were at Step offices or similar such places. And the wow factor that created for some of these organizations or countries was phenomenal. I recall that there was an entire UPI transaction that was being done, and one of the ministers was just taken aback. He said, "Is no money being exchanged?" And we said, "No, there's no money being exchanged. It's just a QR code. You scan it, money is transferred, the person is happy. He just gets a message which says 30 rupees debited or 30 rupees transferred, and that's about it." And it almost seemed like wizardry for them. It was beyond magical for a number of them. And that's really the power of some of the DPI that India has pulled through, which is make it so simple that it almost seems like magic when you have pulled it off. So with that, let me go to Professor Prasanna. And I think a large part of the innovation couldn't have happened without the support of the academic sector. We've done a ton of hackathons. Hackathons that have happened either on the Beacon protocol, on ONDC, on even the earlier pieces of Sunbird or UPI. Almost most of these applications or point solutions have come through a bunch of academic support. And the academic support could have been in various forms. It could have been in terms of either hackathons, or it could have been a sustained proof of concepts, first of a kind, and so on and so forth. But that's been a start point before the startup community starts getting galvanized. And I want to get to you, professors. What are your thoughts primarily around how the academic community can come together, especially to support things like OneTAC, things that are around the entire DPI ecosystem itself?
Thank you, Kanish. As co-panelists mentioned, we have open network, we have digital infrastructure. Then to take it at scale, the only place is we have to move it to an open space. Academics is an open space, and also the number of applications that we can visualize are infinite. So the only way to create them is move to an open space, academic space, and make the Gen Z to generate new applications, visualize and dream applications. So in that way, that is one part. Later, we can think about now the ones they through the hackathons and other means we can generate new applications and then move up them in terms of startups, other things. That is one vertical. The second vertical is later sanitize and get the academic programs, certificate programs, and later gradually moving into a degree program, which is essentially in terms of where industry case study based, then learner centric approach. So with that, we will be able to, over time, we'll be able to get a good academic standing for this open tax. Thank you.
In fact, Professor, I would also add that there are a number of, let's say, incubators that have often come off academic institutions. So we have seen a number of institutions bringing up these incubators, getting them to a certain stage, giving them the necessary support, whether it is institutional support, financial support, or even technology support, and then from then on help them, say, get into the whole bigger space. It's almost like let's nurture them till they're able to fly on their own, and I think that's where larger institutions like IIIT, Dharwad, and other places can play a big role in incubating these.
Definitely. So that.
All right, with that, I think we've come almost to the close of the session. We're just on time. We've got a great panel discussion or a fireside chat right after this. So please stay tuned. But thank you, everybody from the panel. Fantastic discussion on OneTAC. Encourage you. Please use Namayatri. That's my favorite tagline for today. Thanks.